Okay.
This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it's time for Your Purpose, Your Power, a Journey to Authenticity. This podcast is done in collaboration with Cleveland 13 News. And I encourage all of you to find out more about Cleveland 13 News because it's authentic news. And that is why I love doing this podcast, because I talk to people who are on a real life journey. My guest is Raine Austen. And Raine, I think we met, I think my son was probably about 15 years old, and it was at the Broadview Heights summer event when they have their whole weekend. You were performing, and he was going to perform after you. And I came up to you and I said, you know, you were wonderful. I enjoyed listening to you. I hope you will just take a few minutes and listen to my son. And you said, oh, sure, absolutely. And a friendship between us has grown from that time. Now, we're not friends in the way that every week we get together for coffee because you have a very busy schedule and so do I. And back then, you were doing a lot of performing locally. But I know prior to that, you were down in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yep.
You you were an up and coming star. So take us on your journey, Rainey.
In my own mind, in my mother's mind. It's true. I started singing and performing when very small. And when I was in seventh grade, I was the lead guitarist for the guitar youth group at our church. So I go way, way back. I was in my first band when I was like 20. I started doing commercials all through that time of my life. And I got involved with a company called Rainbow Muffler, which actually was the muffler man in Michigan. I did their commercials, and I got so involved with the company that they actually expanded the company and they named it after me. So anybody in Cleveland that has heard of or knows or goes to Rainbow Muffler, that's me.
I love it. I love it. And I'm originally from Michigan, so I should know
Oh,
that, but I don't remember it. But that's okay.
that's, that's okay. So I helped them build 70 rainbow muffler shops. And in during that time, I was so busy making money so that I could have a career in music that I actually put my music aside. And then when I left the Rainbow Muffler Company, I ended up getting married. I was married for about 15 minutes, I think. That was long enough. And so he was a big fan of mine. And so he collaborated with my parents saying, you got to just keep singing. So I got involved in some local Cleveland stuff. But when I got divorced, my dad came and picked me up on the back of my shirt and said, your mother and I decided it's time for you to go do what you were born to do. And I said, what was that? Remind me, what was that? So my dad loaded up my car with some stuff and put a full tank of gas in there and kicked me out of the house and sent me down to Nashville. So while I was down there, I just had made the most incredible friendships that I still have today. So I was right on the verge of recording my first Nashville CD, and I had this really bad sore throat come on. So in the morning, I called my ENT. Do you hear my phone ring? That phone rings
No,
like once
don't
every
worry
six
about it.
months.
No.
And so I had this, I called the ENT and I went in to see him, and he said, you have burned your vocal cords from acid reflux. And I'm like, because I wasn't a coffee drinker. I'm very careful with my voice. But my boyfriend at the time, he said to me, he was watching me deal with more grief when I'd lost my dad, and I was dealing with chronic fatigue.
Mm,
So he thought that coffee would help me. So I would take a sip here and there, but it did more damage. So, in the midst of all of that, I was able to record and release my first CD in the year 2000. I wanted to make sure I had that 2000 on my
Good.
CD. So that ENT was, oh goodness, oh, now their name is going to go. His granddaughter is real famous, but anyway, I'll think of it. I'll come back to it. But so he told me, he said, don't be surprised if you never sing again. And I said, oh, I'll be singing because I'm releasing my CD and I have a show at the Bluebird like in 2 months. And he's like, yeah, don't be surprised. But I did it. I made it through. And then when I moved back to the Cleveland area after 9/11, I went to see an ENT here just to get scoped to see where my vocal cords were. And he said to me, did you say you're a singer? And I said, yup. And he said, okay, good luck. And
Wow.
it was like the vocal cords weren't like when you speak and your air flows through your vocal cords, they flutter like a butterfly. Well, mine were doing this. So I just went through a lot of therapy, a lot of training, a lot of, practicing, and I just got them steady. And I got to the point where my voice was stronger than ever. And I put together a group called Resounding Joy. And Resounding Joy, which we're going to get together again this year, but Resounding Joy was like 5 or 6 of us singers. We did all choral stuff, and it was real high power stuff. We ended up doing like 40, 50 gigs a year.
Oh,
And
wow.
my voice was so powerful. So I ended up meeting somebody from the Playhouse, and they invited me to do a show at the Hannah Theater. So I did that show and then I did more and more. And I ended up selling out 5 shows at the Hannah Theater.
Wow.
So it was so exciting. It was such a great time. Plus my Christmas concerts that always attracted 600, 700, 800 people at my church. So that was always great for me. And then when COVID hit, first before that in 2016, I'd lost my mom. And it was like that was like the end of my world because she helped me pick out my songs. She would make my clothes. She would help me get gigs. She performed with me. I mean, she was my biggest advocate. My sister started singing with me, doing some harmonies and stuff. And it was just such a big thing. But when I lost her, like my life was gone. And so I just didn't even realize that like 2 or 3 years went by and I still wasn't singing. And so
Wow.
one of my Resounding Joy singers called me. She said, Raine, you got to get back out there. Your mother would not want you to sit home. So she got me an audition for a local band. And I was a backup singer for 5 years. And even though it was the hardest thing for me to be a backup singer, because I'm always the headliner, right? But it worked out good for me because it gave me my confidence back. So I did that for a long time. They were busy. We were doing 30, 40 gigs a year. And then when this whole thing with COVID came about, all the bars and, well, we didn't really do bars, but a lot of shows were being canceled.
Sure.
Um, and so they wanted me. I was the only one in the band that didn't get the COVID vaccine. And I said to them, I'm not getting that COVID vaccine. I don't put stuff in my body. I'm very holistic. My brother just cured himself from 4th stage intraocular melanoma eye cancer holistically without a single drug. Why would I want to put something like that in my body? So I don't know what made me do this, but I did. I went and I got that vaccine, and I only got one shot. And while I was there, it was like I felt like I was on fire, like from my whole upper
Wow.
respiratory. It was just like I was on fire. So I decided, to do whatever I could to try to heal myself. But I started coughing and I was coughing and coughing. And then I got sick and then I had COVID. And then I was diagnosed with COVID 3 times. And then I had upper respiratory issues. And it was like, oh my God, I spent like 10 months just being sick, coughing, trying to figure things out. And then all of a sudden, one day, I went to my family's for one of the holidays, and I was still coughing, and I couldn't speak. And my sister said to me, Rainey, you got to find out what's going on with you because you don't sound like yourself. You're still coughing. This is not normal for you. So I ended up calling my cousin, who's a doctor with UH, Dr. John Wolf. And so he set me up with an ENT from UH, Dr. Maronian, and she's on the east side. So I went in to see her, and she scoped my throat and she had me do some exercises. And she said, Rainey, your injury is so severe. If I were you, I would just plan on not ever singing again.
No.
And I said, well, I am a daughter of God, and this is my gift, and I will be singing because I have a concert in 2 months. And she said, okay, good luck. And I thought, I've heard those words before. So I did 18 weeks of speech therapy with UH. They were fantastic. I worked with a girl by the name of Lex, and she is amazing. She works with singers. So when all was kind of like, when my head was kind of clearing up, trying to figure out what just happened here, I went back through my notes and I had another meeting with Dr. Maronian. And I said, what is going on? She said, you have what is called muscle tension dysphonia. And I'm like, can you tell me what that is? Because I've never heard of such a thing. And she said, it's trauma from the vocal cords, or I'm sorry, from the muscles in the larynx in the voice box. So she said, from all the coughing and all the infection from COVID and whatever else you were dealing with, she said it just damaged the muscles to the point where it's like, to put it simply, it's like they freeze and they never unfreeze. And I said to her, so how do we fix this? And she said, you don't. And I said, so am I going to be like this all my life? And she said, yeah. And I said, my family lives to be in their 90s. My uncle just lived to be 100, and I'm so young. I don't want to talk like this all my life. And she said, well, you have a lot of work to do. So I continued on with like my therapy. I continued learning about, what this is, what I can do, what I can't do, what feels to be my new normal, you know. And so I just worked on everything so hard. So when I went to see her again and I was talking and I was singing, she was like, she was shocked. She was like, I can't believe it. She said, you really, really worked hard. So she said, you really need to get the word out about this and let people know that even as severe as their injury is, there's still hope. So I did. I started, talking about it. I went back to work. I'm a full time recruiter, so I'm on the phone all day long. And even though I have my days where I can't talk, like this morning, I'm a little rusty, but I have those days too where I could talk normal. So what it comes from is the tension through here, all of this through here, where am I? Over here, all
Okay.
these muscles underneath, they're just so tight. So massages work and things like that. I drink some teas that knock me out, and then I feel okay. But what's kind of interesting is a couple people who I have talked to about this have said, I had that too, but I recovered from it. And they got it from coughing after they got the vaccine,
Interesting.
which I thought
Interesting.
was very interesting. Yeah. So I just found on a fluke, God worked so hard in my life. So on a fluke, I got an email from the director of music at the cathedral downtown. And he put in there the name of a gentleman who is, he does rehab for vocalists. And so I started with him. I just had my first meeting with him, and I scheduled myself for 3 months with him. But he taught me so much because I know so much about the voice and the voice box and how it works and how to be a good singer and how to take care of your breathing and your vocal cords. I mean, how does anybody have a 50-year career and not have any notes and sing the powerful ballads like I do? It's because I had good training, but I followed through all my life. And my mother was a singer, so she would make sure I did it right, you know. So this man taught me new stuff in the 45 minutes that I was with him on the ends of, like, I've done so much recovery, but I'm at that point where I need to know what's next. And he is that advanced next step. So I'm learning about breathing, the flow of your breath, how your sinuses are connected to your throat and this whole voice box section, all your sinuses. You're breathing from here, from not just your stomach, from your diaphragm.
Right.
Shame on me. And how to push that through because your voice works with breath. If you don't use your breath, you're not going to have your voice. So I was taught in my rehab and my therapy how to use my confidential voice. But I said, what's a confidential voice? I don't know how to speak quiet. I have a big voice. I have a big family. We're screamers. So he's now going to take me through the next journey, which we should get together after I'm done to see how I've progressed. But the journey is going to teach me about the glottal, about the vocal folds, about all the different parts of the larynx, the voice box, the muscles, the tongue, the sinuses, and how to make that unite so that I can speak normally again. So,
You know,
so
I
I'm
I
excited.
love your story because so many of us don't understand how certain parts of our body just change and almost change overnight. Um,
Yeah.
I had thyroid surgery about 50 years ago. And when I came out of surgery, I remember hearing the doctors talking over to the side saying to my husband at the time, um, we're sorry, we nicked her vocal cords, but we're sure she's going to be able to speak. And I remember lying there with all these tubes and stuff around me, looking over and wondering, like, can they hear my voice? And I remember trying to talk, nothing was coming out. And I thought, oh my God, I did lose my voice. Well, I didn't lose my voice. I got my voice back. My voice has been very gravelly for the last 50 years. Prior to that, I was not a singer like you, but I could carry a tune. And all of a sudden, I found myself driving down the road in the car, and I couldn't even stand my own voice because it was so off key. And it took last week my son noticing something, and he said, Mom, you are not breathing and talking properly. He said, you're talking from your throat all the time.
Right.
He
Mm-hmm.
said, how long have you been doing that? I looked at him like, I don't know. And he said, well, I always remember your voice being this way. And it was like, that's scary because I didn't even realize it. So I was at my ENT and I asked the question, and he said, almost like what you're going through. If you want to get your old voice back, which he said is not going to sound like your old voice, but if you want to get rid of that gravelly sound, it's going to take a lot of work and therapy. He said, and I can't guarantee it's going to be perfect. He said, but you aren't breathing right. He said, I notice you just sitting here, not that you're gasping for breath, but it's all in here. It's not coming up. And so hearing your story, it makes me realize that sometimes we've got to start asking the questions. Why is it sometimes hard for me to do a podcast and have to keep taking an extra breath? And it's because I haven't learned since 50 years ago when somebody said, we nicked your vocal cords. I guess my way of compensating with that was, okay, I'm just going to talk from here out. So you've been in therapy a while, but you have been performing, correct?
Well, I found that really interesting too. But I want to make one more comment here about the breathing. Um, when I studied voice, I studied at the I still have COVID brain. I'm telling you, I have
Well,
to think
we all
hard
do.
sometimes. I use lyric sheets and everything now, but not the Music Institute, but it's a branch of the Music Institute. And my teacher was Romaine Beard. And when I would study, she would make me lie on the ground. And this might be an exercise for you. I would lay on the ground and sing because if there's one thing that drives me nuts is when I watch a singer go in during their songs, breathing, and it's like, why are you using your shoulders? You should be using your diaphragm. You should always watch a singer. When you watch a professional singer, their stomachs go like accordions, in and out, in and out. That's how they breathe because they're using their diaphragm, which is like they use their back muscles, their stomach muscles, all their abs here to work that diaphragm to get that breath out. So if you don't breathe properly, like if I would not breathe, I would be like this. But if I take a breath properly, now I can talk like this because I'm breathing properly and pushing that air out so that my vocal cords are now doing this instead of this. So, it's always been my advice to singers and speakers like yourself. Lay on the floor, do 10 minutes just laying on the floor, do deep breathing, don't move your shoulders, and see if that'll help you build the muscles around the diaphragm to get the breath out. So,
It's interesting because I learned that method. Um, oh wow, I think my son was 11 years old, and Monica Robbins was doing a story on him and his autism, and she saw that when he would get upset, he was having trouble breathing. And she said to him, lay down on the floor. And he looked at her like she was totally crazy. And he goes, no. And she goes, just do me a favor. So she lay down on the floor and she said, just lay down next to me. And he did. And she said, what do you feel when you breathe? And all of a sudden he realized he was breathing from his diaphragm because he could feel it on his back. He could feel it coming out. And
right.
she said to him, I know you like to perform. She said, I'm going to suggest something. Before you perform, lay down on the floor for a couple of minutes, do some vocal exercises.
Oh,
Make sure they're coming from low in your gut all the way out. And he does that. He does that regularly. And if he finds that he's very upset about something, if he can find a safe place to go lie down on the floor, he will.
that's
And
wonderful.
just get it out. And
Yeah.
I've never tried it, but I always thought, wow, that is great. And now that you brought it up, I think I have to start trying
And I'll do these like my sister's a personal trainer, so she's really good at helping out with, breathing and form and things like that. So I do this one thing too. I touch the floor, I bend over like a rag doll, bring myself up, and then you kind of do things like that, like you're wailing just a little bit, just kind of like open that up a little bit, and that helps to open up the breathing. And then as my cool down, I'll lay down on the floor and do my deep breathing. And it's wonderful. It's so helpful.
So tell me, are you performing now? And are you going to have another Christmas concert?
I put my big girl panties on and I'm going to do it. I,
Wonderful.
I know I'm a nervous wreck. I'm every day I'm going, what are you doing? What are you doing? But you had asked me about how I'm able to sing. And I do sing at church every weekend. I do 2 and 3 masses every weekend. I'm in the Catholic Church, St. Martin Tours in Maple Heights. And I do those and I do my rehearsing. And I'm able to sing. Nobody knows I have a problem. It's crazy. And I asked, why is it that I can sing? And it's because of my training from all these years and all my years of just singing properly. I'm able to work around the muscles to the vocal cords so the vocal cords were not damaged. So that's my gift. When God gives you a gift, nothing can take it away. So the damage is around the vocal cords, in the muscles, in the larynx, and I was injured mostly down here. So the deep end of my voice. So I did lose all of that on the bottom. Like no more Patsy Cline, no more Donna Summer, no more Celine Dion, but the vocal cords are still perfect, which is incredible. So I have to use heavy breath control because I still am having issues with the breathing. But I can still sing like my opera stuff, the Ave Maria and all that. So I just sing up here. But if you're looking at the graph, anybody who knows music, I can't sing below the E. Every good boy does fine.
Yep.
So I can't sing below the E. So my pitch, I used to have 3.5 octave range because I was able to cover that whole bass down here. I
Sure.
learned that in Nashville how to do that. And I was able to go over the graph. But now I have my limitations even at the top, but I know I'm going to get those back. So, that to say, again, here comes my resounding joy singer, Becky, and she says, Raine, you got to get back out there. So, I did the concerts for 20 years. Last year, I took off because the stress of that concert was so intense that it just wore me out. So, I said, that's my last one. So, last year, I didn't have one, and I got all kinds of feedback and static from my fans saying, what? The church was empty. We need you back. So I said, okay, I'm going to try it. So I am going to do on December 14th at 6 o'clock. And this is 2025 in case anybody's watching later in life.
Right, absolutely. And I think what you're sharing with us is that if you have the will to get better, we're not talking about miracles because you put a lot of work into this. And as you said, your vocal range has changed. So you're not singing at the same tonality that you did previously, but that's okay. You're doing what you love to do and you're making adjustments. And I hope our listeners understand that it's just part of life. Okay. COVID is part of it, but COVID is part of life, and we couldn't get away from it. I mean, it's a horrible, nasty virus, and it's going to linger for a very long time. Some of us don't even know when we have it. When I got COVID, I had no idea I was sick, no idea, because I didn't feel sick. I was going in for surgery the following week, so they had to do a COVID test. And I was on my way to work and I got a phone call that said, your COVID test came back positive. I don't know where you are right now, but you need to go home and isolate yourself. And I started laughing. It was like, but I'm not sick. I haven't been sick. I went home, I isolated for 5 days, never had a symptom. However, because I have an immune disorder, my doctors have pushed the vaccine. And every time I get it, I am down for 48 hours. I am sick, just is the way it is. But the reason I take the vaccine is because I'd rather have 2 days a year when I get the vaccine to be sick rather than get COVID and really be sick. So we all get to choose how we want to move forward. However, when life throws you a curveball, I think we need to be more like Raine and start asking the questions. Okay. Okay. How can I straighten out this pitch? How can I make it work for me? And I love
Right.
using this baseball analogy because the two of us both love John Adams and miss him greatly. And
Oh,
he is our baseball idol, even though I don't think
yep.
he ever played baseball in his life. He just banged the
So,
drum for baseball. But
yep.
that's what you did. You took that curveball and you said, I'm going to straighten it out and I'm going to make it work for me so that I can hit it
Yep.
and run the bases. And that's what you're doing.
I will not let, I absolutely refuse to allow Satan in my life, and I will not allow him to take my gift. So when God gives you something, it's for real and it's for life. And I'm speaking of gifts, like you have your gifts, I have my gifts, you have my sister, my brothers. Everybody has a gift. Sometimes they can't find it. But when it shows up, you know what it is. You go, huh, where did that come from? That's your gift. So, like you did not allow anything in your life to stop you from doing this podcasting and all your speeches and presentations that you do in your career. You never allowed it to stop you. And I'm just not going to let this stop me. I do allow myself, though. One thing that I learned when I was going through my grief counseling is you have to allow yourself to have those down times.
Absolutely.
When it's like I tell people, if you feel tears coming on, you have to let them flow. You got to let it out. And then when you're done crying, you could pick yourself back up. And that's what I did with this whole muscle tension dysphonia. I allowed myself to be sad. I would not allow myself to get depressed, but I would allow myself to be sad, upset, angry, call and scream at some of my friends who would listen. And then when I was done, I go, whew, okay, I feel better now. Let's go shopping.
I love
Let's
that.
go get some, so once you get that out, it's kind of like a healing thing I learned from my grief, losing my mom. And I found that it really helps. It really works for me. So that's what I did. And then it's been 4 years now that I'm fighting this. And so I'm like, okay, I'm doing my concert. So we're having practice tonight.
I love that. So
I'm so excited.
one of the things that I do know about you, while you've been going through this, your brother was going through his own journey, okay, um, which was, I'm sure, scary for you and your sister.
It's
Um,
horrible.
it's, you know, sometimes we don't understand what is happening to our bodies, why um, we're told that we have cancer when, like, where did it come from? How did that happen to me? I've been doing all the healthy things and now I get this big C. But your brother, he found his way through it. And I hope to have him on one of my podcasts very soon because his journey, but you were also living his journey being his sister. And your sister works in people with grief 24/7. And so for her to have to come home and see her sister grieving, I'm sure was not easy. But yet you are as lucky as I believe I am. And you have two siblings and you have five. Oh, I only
Yeah,
knew two.
well, yeah, there's actually four siblings plus me. There's five of us. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
but you all seem to be strong and care for each other and love each other. And that can help us through these times. Um, I remember when I was recovering from my thyroid surgery and the thought, oh, you know, what is my voice going to sound like? What can I do with it? Um, my middle brother, who just passed away, called me. He lived on the West Coast, and he said, I don't want to hear anything about you not having a voice, because you have a voice. You've been a crier your whole life, so cry, make that noise. Um, don't listen to the doctors when they say that your vocal cords have been hurt. And I said, but they haven't. He said, I don't care. Use them. And he knew I wasn't a singer. At that time, I wasn't a public speaker. And so it was like, just use them every single day. And if you need some help, go get it. And I didn't listen to him right away. I thought, what do you know? And
Right.
uh, when I was going through my own COVID issue, my voice got even more gravelly. And he said to me, what are you doing about it? And I said, about what? He said, listen to yourself. And I said, I don't know. What do you hear? And he goes, you're not breathing properly. And again, I found competent doctors who I talked to. And yes, I wasn't, because I was starting to hyperventilate. All I could think about was COVID, what it did, what the thyroid did. And so I didn't realize that I was carrying this baggage around. And when I started going through therapy, I could let the baggage go away. And my voice gets more gravelly when I'm carrying a lot of baggage. So this past month, with the loss of my brother and trying to be there for other people, I found last week I sounded like this little old lady who had this gravelly voice.
It's all
And
stress. Yeah.
I realized, hey, I got to do something about this. I got to breathe. So when this is over, I'm going to lay down on the floor and breathe. I think that's
Good. Good girl. I'll tell you, there's nothing better than like some good yoga stretches and some breathing. So good for you.
so. Who's going to be in the concert with you? Give us a little preview.
Oh, I've got to let me get my list out for you because
Okay.
I've got a lot going on here this time. Um, so I'm going to have my good buddy David Pratt, of course. David Pratt sang choral stuff, men's choral groups for years. He also was the lead singer for the Renegade Gentlemen, and now he's got another group he's putting together. And his voice is just he's more of a pop rock kind of a singer, but can do some borderline classical stuff. So he's perfect with my choral group. So he's gonna be on. Becky Grano, who sang with me, she's a beautiful soprano. She was one of Cleveland's top favorite vocal singers a couple years ago. She's gonna sing with me. She was with me for about 5 years with Resounding Joy. And I have a special guest coming this year too. His name is Brandon Hoff. Brandon is a violinist and he's out there now doing his own thing. I can't think of the name of his group, but Brandon, his grandmother was a member of my church, and she came up to me and she said, "Hey, my grandson, he wants to play violin. Can he be intermission?"
I
And I
love
said, "Sure."
that.
So he came, he was, I don't know, 9, 10, 11 years old, and he just like took the room. So now he's off doing his own thing and he's very successful. So Brandon is going to come and do a couple of songs. And then I'll have Maria Daniels, who is a black gospel singer. She was and Cleveland's, I want to say American Idol, Cleveland Idol, back I think 2012. And then, of course, my baby sister Jody. She hates it when I call her that, but my sister Jody, she'll probably play some piano and help me do some singing too. I think my friend Jeannie Henderson Tiefenbach or let's see, she's Tiefenbach Henderson. She's an amazing artist. She owns October Sun in Twinsburg. She's an artist, and she does praise dance. So hopefully we'll get her to come and do a dance for us while we're singing Silent Night or something.
Oh, I love
So
that.
going to be a lot of people there this time, and that's going to be a great support for me too because it'll help me to get the nerves out of having to do just songs where I feel like, oh, am I going to hit that note? Oh, that song's too low for me, So I've never had to worry about that before. Now it's a reality for me, but it's going to be a great show. So I hope everybody can come. And we only can fit 900 in the church, so get there early.
So tell us exactly where it's located.
Okay, it's St. Martin of Tours on Turney Road in Maple Heights, December 14th. It's a Sunday evening, 6 o'clock. It'll only be for maybe, an hour and a half or so. But we always just have so much. It's a way to get yourself prepared for Christmas. And I even get, yes, my Jewish friends come to support me
I
because
love
I sing some songs that they love. So it's just a good way for everybody to get into the spirit of the holiday season, whether whatever faith you are, and it just makes everybody feel good.
Well, one of the things that I want to share with our audience is that you don't have to celebrate Christmas to go to a Christmas concert.
That's right.
It's about coming together in unity.
Yes.
And I think it's extremely important right now. We're going through a lot of turbulence, not just here in our own country, globally. And, when you can reach out and enjoy something musical, and that's how I look at your concerts. You know, as a Jewish individual, yes, I know it's a Christmas concert, but I look at it as a musical opportunity for me to take in the beauty and the glory. Um, it doesn't necessarily have to be about the words, but yet many of the words in those songs are used globally amongst all
Absolutely.
religions. So go and enjoy and support Rainey and all the other wonderful performers. And
Yes.
as you continue in your therapy, I would love to have you back on to talk about some of the techniques that you're using and
Okay.
how they are truly helping you, but how they can help others, even if they don't have this condition. Because again, um, I learned about lying on the floor. God, my son's 35 already. Um, 20 years ago,
Wow.
and
When did
I
that happen? Yeah.
and I've never tried it out. So I think that would be really great. And again, thank you for being my friend. I
You
appreciate
are
it.
the best. I'm so grateful to be your friend. It's my honor. And thank you so much for today. I'm so glad we had this time together.
Absolutely. You take
I
care.
love you so much. You too.
Bye bye
And I
now.
want to update on your breathing.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye bye
Bye
now.
bye.